The story begins with a strange imbalance. A nation of 9 million people on the eastern edge of the Mediterranean and a nation of more than 340 million people across an entire continent. Israel is smaller than New Jersey. Its population is lower than the population of Lagos. The United States is a superpower with the largest military in human history, the largest economy ever created, and a political system that influences every region of the world. Yet, when you watch Washington closely, you find something unusual. This tiny nation seems to exert an outsized gravitational pull on the giant. Israel's GDP is a little above $500 billion. The United States is above 27 trillion. Israel has no global navy, no empire of military bases, no continent-wide alliances of its own. The United States has 750 military facilities in 80 countries and commands the world's reserve currency. On paper, the power comparison should be obvious, but power does not always follow population or GDP. Sometimes it follows networks, sometimes it follows narrative, sometimes it follows money. This is the beginning of the puzzle, but that is not all. Every major American politician seems to speak about Israel with a kind of rehearsed devotion. You do not need to search for it. You simply wait for a crisis, and Washington performs the same choreography. After the October 2023 Gaza war began, President Joe Biden said,
"I'm sure innocents have been killed, and it's the price of waging a war, but I have no confidence in the number that the Palestinians are using."
This was at a time when international observers, humanitarian agencies, and even American intelligence analysts confirmed that the casualties reported were largely accurate. His statements dismissed an entire population and echoed the official line from the Netanyahu government. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham went even further. When asked about the civilian toll in Gaza, he said, "Level the place. There is no limit. Do whatever you need to do." Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer described Israel as the beacon of democracy in the Middle East and warned that any criticism that undermines Israel in this moment helps the enemy. Then came Republican Senator Ted Cruz, who said that every single rocket fired at Israel is a crime, but every action Israel takes in response is justified. The commitment crossed both parties. Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman-Schultz accused critics of Israel of serving as propaganda tools for terrorists. Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik attacked university presidents who would not condemn pro-Palestinian chants, calling them morally bankrupt and suggesting their schools should lose funding. House Speaker Mike Johnson traveled to Israel and said, "We are here to stand with you no matter what." He pledged unconditional support, even as global outrage grew. The competition sometimes looked theatrical. Politicians scrambled to post statements faster than the arrivals. Senator John Fetterman draped himself in an Israeli flag during a press appearance and posted dozens of messages condemning Palestinian solidarity protests. Senator Cory Booker published a video from a bomb shelter in Israel saying, "I want to be very clear. I stand with Israel completely." It went beyond rhetoric. When the United Nations voted on a ceasefire resolution, the United States was one of the only countries to oppose it. Not because the public demanded it, but because American political leaders could not risk appearing insufficiently loyal. This is where the pattern becomes unmistakable. The statement sounds uniform, the emotions sound uniform, the loyalty sounds uniform. Someone was pulling the plug. Churches across the United States held vigils for children killed in Gaza. Universities erupted in protests. Thousands marched in New York, Chicago, Washington, and Los Angeles. But inside the halls of Congress, it felt as if the script had already been written. The leaders were not responding to public opinion, they were responding to something else. Something older, something tied to funding networks, donor lists, and political survival. The words of these politicians became the clearest evidence of influence. Not mysterious influence, not hidden influence. Influence spoken out loud, on camera, in real time. You begin to ask, why this rush? Why the uniformity? Why the reflex? The usual explanation is simple: shared values, democracy, a special bond. But when you examine the internal politics of the United States, something else becomes clear. Many American politicians are responding not to values, but to money. They know who funds their campaigns. They know who can end their careers. They know which lobby can rearrange the map of their political future. This is where the story must turn to AIPAC. American commentators often compare Israel's lobbying presence to Qatar, Saudi Arabia, or the United Arab Emirates. They point to the millions those countries spend on think tanks and PR firms, but they miss the largest, wealthiest, and most organized pro-Israel force in American politics. They miss the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC. AIPAC is not officially a foreign lobby because it registers as an American organization. Yet, its entire function is to protect the strategic interest of a foreign state inside the American political system. Over the past few years, AIPAC has built one of the most aggressive political war chests in modern United States history. Its affiliated super PACs, United Democracy Project and Democratic Majority for Israel, raised and spent more than $170 million in the 2022 and 2024 cycles combined. United Democracy Project alone spent more money in Democratic primaries than any other outside group in 2022. The effect was immediate and unmistakable. It has the power to reshape any congressional race within days. When AIPAC enters a district, local issues vanish. It becomes a referendum on Israel. Politicians know this. They know the numbers. They know whose money controls the battlefield. Take Michigan. In 2022, AIPAC spent more than $4.2 million to defeat progressive challenger Andy Levin, a Jewish congressman who criticized Israel's policies and supported Palestinian human rights. His opponent, Haley Stevens, received more than $3.4 million in AIPAC support. Levin lost by a wide margin. Analysts described it as one of the most expensive primary defeats in Michigan history. In Pennsylvania, AIPAC spent nearly $3 million attacking Summer Lee, another progressive who called for conditioning aid to Israel. She survived, but only after being drowned in negative ads that labeled her dangerous, extreme, and irresponsible. Her victory was the exception. California saw the same machinery. In 2024, AIPAC and its allies poured more than $5 million into races targeting candidates like Dave Mean and Derek Marshall. Any candidate who suggested holding Israel accountable suddenly faced an ocean of TV ads, mailers, and digital campaigns portraying them as radicals who threatened American security. The message spread through Washington like a quiet sermon. One wrong vote can cost you your career. AIPAC rewards loyalty with equal intensity. Candidates who embrace unconditional support for Israel often receive enormous backing. Virginia Representative Don Davis received over $4.5 million in AIPAC support in 2024, turning a previously competitive race into a landslide. North Carolina's Valerie Fauci received more than $2.4 million in AIPAC money in 2022, most of it in a district with very few voters concerned about foreign policy. Her loyalty was the asset. The votes were secondary. The pattern holds. Loyalty is funded. Dissent is punished. AIPAC uses a simple but devastating method. It tracks politicians who defend Israel without hesitation. It pours money into their campaigns. It identifies politicians who express even small concerns about Israeli military actions. It buries them under an avalanche of negative advertising. It enters primaries late, when opponents cannot respond. It writes the narrative. It reshapes the race. It signals to every young politician watching that careers can end with a single vote. This is why statements from Washington feel scripted. This is why the reactions look uniform. Politicians are not speaking to voters, they are speaking to donors. They are not offering moral clarity, they are avoiding political annihilation. When you know that a single organization can drop $5 million into your district overnight, your instinct is not courage, your instinct is survival. AIPAC understood this long before the American public began to notice, and that is why their influence became one of the most enduring forces in American political life. Yet, beneath the surface, something is changing in the American public. Polling data shows a generational shift. Older Americans remain loyal to Israel, shaped by Cold War narratives, biblical imagery, and decades of media framing. Younger Americans are turning away. Surveys from Gallup, Pew, and YouGov throughout 2023 and 2024 show that Americans under 35 increasingly sympathize with Palestinians rather than with the Israeli government. They oppose unconditional military aid. They question the nature of the relationship. They view the decades-long occupation as an injustice. They do not see Israel as a fragile democracy needing protection. They see a powerful military backed by the United States, exercising control over another population. The campuses that once stayed silent have become loud. The protests in New York, Washington, Boston, Chicago, Minneapolis, and Los Angeles revealed a crack in the old American consensus. Students marched, workers marched, Jewish groups marched. Public opinion fractured in real time. Politicians noticed the shift. They watched the backlash toward their own statements. They watched donors pull away from university boards. They watched the cost of loyalty rise. Some began to hesitate, others softened their tone. A very small number began to criticize Israel's actions openly. This would have been unthinkable 10 years ago. The American-Israel relationship has lasted for decades. It survived wars, presidential transitions, diplomatic scandals, and even moments of open tension between leaders. But the relationship is no longer untouchable. American politicians who once stood firmly in Israel's corner now face growing pressure at home. Their voters are angry, their districts are changing, their social media pages are flooded with outrage, their primary challenges speak a new language. So the final question rises: can the influence be broken? Can a country of 9 million continue to maintain this level of control over a country of 340 million as public opinion shifts? Can a lobby built on fear and funding survive a generation that is no longer afraid and no longer impressed by the money? The decline of influence rarely happens in one moment. It happens through small fractures that spread like cracks through old stone. It happens when the public no longer believes the story. It happens when the cost of silence becomes heavier than the cost of speaking out. Something in the United States is shifting. Something in the old bond is weakening. Power remains, but the certainty no longer does. Whether this turns into a real break or a slow transformation is the question that hangs over Washington. And it is a question that the next decade will answer with a clarity that lobby money cannot prevent.